K-pop is too westernized now. I've been hearing this statement floating around the K-pop fandom for a while now. As someone who's been a K-pop fan for almost 10 years now, I can tell you firsthand that there have definitely been some changes, and not all that I like. But K-pop being too westernized? What the hell does this even mean? The word westernized itself is being used to refer to various things: the changing K-pop music sound, integration of more English lyrics / full English songs and comebacks, increased sex appeal in concerts, just to name a few. So criticizing the genre for being too western implies one of two things. K-pop was never westernized until now. K-pop is more westernized than ever. K-pop fans who are more familiar with K-pop history and Korean culture in general may agree more with the second implication. And in some ways, that statement is true. K-pop has reached a new level of globalization. It has become a well-established music genre internationally. Companies overtly market their groups for Western audiences. English subtitles for Korean content have become more accessible. But because of the nature of modern South Korea, I don't think it's accurate to infer that this aggressive globalization of K-pop is anything new. K-pop isn't more westernized than ever. The westernization is just more obvious and more successful if we're talking about globalization. In this idea of K-pop becoming more Western and departing from its authentic Korean self, there's a massive contradiction that exists here. Since as far back as Taejoong boys, K-pop has been westernized. If we want to go even further back to 1960s, there was the Kim sisters. They were informally the first K-pop group, and their whole formula literally depended on Western music as part of their branding. Their performances were reminiscent of Motown girl groups who were in the music scene of that time. Going back to Taejoong boys, any Reader's Digest of K-pop will tell you that the K-pop we know today was pioneered by them. It was Taejoong's combination of 90s American pop music, synchronized dancing, and Korean vocals that became the formula for K-pop music. In addition to this obvious Western music influence, companies, specifically SM Entertainment, took it even further with westernization by purchasing the rights of English songs and remaking them as Korean songs for K-pop groups. This occurrence has existed since first generation. So here we have K-pop simping for Western aesthetics during a time that today's teen K-pop fans weren't even fetuses yet, and people are somehow shocked that K-pop looks the way it does. What's more important to note, though, is how westernization is not limited to K-pop. If we're talking about Korea, the westernization of South Korea has been occurring since as early as the 1900s. During the Japanese occupation, many cultural policies pushed Western ideals and lifestyles onto Koreans as a way to assimilate them under the Japanese rule. Then the occupation got their asses booted out, Korea split into two, and then the remaining half of the 20th century was defined by South Korea's journey, mind you a very difficult one, to becoming a democratic state. And economy-wise, the country basically decided globalization is hella sexy, that aggressively pursued this type of westernization. In the Korean household, it was also common in the 90s, and even up until now this is happening, for parents to send their children abroad to receive a Western education. And also, English fever is a term specifically used to describe Korean people's desires and lengths to learn English. So why am I info dumping this history and academic jargon that you could easily wiki if you really want to know? Well, if people are going to dictate what is considered authentic K-pop and then make blanket statements like, K-pop panders too much to the West, they're desperate for Western validation, they twerk and wear revealing clothing because they're trying to be more Western, then first you must understand the relationship between Korea and westernization and how that relates to K-pop. You're hearing me say globalization a lot because South Korea prides itself on globalization. It's because of globalization that Samsung is Apple's biggest competitor, Hyundai is the third largest car maker in the world, and they've done the same with K-pop. K-pop's globalization began with the Japanese market, with Japan being Korea's neighbor and also having the second biggest music industry in the world. Korea had a lot to gain from expanding K-pop to there. Throughout the 2000s and 2010s, multiple efforts have been made to globalize K-pop for the West. But even for the local Korean audience, companies and artists paid attention to what was selling in the West and recreated these trending aesthetics for their own branding and music. And this includes the sexy concept that some people have deemed too sleazy or westernized for K-pop. We're gonna see two cases of where the sexy concept has worked and has been successful, and then another case in which it has failed for K-pop's local audience. A staple of K-pop is their Kunminam concept, or flower boy image. But artists like Justin Timberlake, Chris Brown, and Usher dominated the music industry in the mid-2000s. Their image and aesthetics influenced male artists of the K-pop scene during this time. Rain was even dubbed the Justin Timberlake of Asia for his sexy image and dancing that mirrored R&B artists of the time. Mirotic was meant to establish TVXQ as mature and sexy, a move that was risky but proven a major success. Groups like 2PM also debuted with this concept. While these K-pop companies certainly had varied interests in targeting the Western market, Mirotic and Rainism are pinnacle examples of K-pop wanting to adopt Western trends for their own local audience. And these trends clearly worked because both of these comebacks were hugely successful in Korea. Baby Vox is a first-generation group who popularized the sexy concept that we now see in girl groups today. But what Baby Vox also did was have an entire album that was meant to target the Western market, with English songs, featured American rappers, and a very American Y2K look and sexy concept. They were meant to expand globally. The point that I'm trying to hit home here is that this has been happening for a long time. So if that's the case, why are people pissed off now? Or why is there so much criticism of westernization in K-pop as if it's polluting the genre? Well, the difference between what Baby Vox did back then and what many groups are doing now that are exactly like Baby Vox is how much a group can actually reach their target audience, especially a Western one. When Baby Vox had their American Western concept, whatever you want to call it, it was their biggest failure. They couldn't even target the audience that they wanted. Legal issues with the sample they used from Tupac for their song caused the group to halt all activities in the West. Apart from the controversy, this concept entirely was poorly received by the Korean public. Baby Vox had always pushed boundaries with their music and their concepts, but singing songs about casual sex and partying was deemed going too far. So K-pop has always been westernized for both its local audience and international one. What the biggest change is now is K-pop's massive exposure as a result of the internet and streaming culture that allows K-pop to actually market outside of their own local audience. This explosion in the Korean wave has made people notice what's been occurring in K-pop since its inception. Companies are actively pursuing what's already been done in the past because in today's age, those things are actually working for increasing sales and gaining traction for their groups. Now, this doesn't mean that there's absolutely nothing new in K-pop that's happening now that didn't occur before. We are now seeing a higher number of multi-ethnic groups debuting, and the final point I want to make on this topic is there's nothing wrong with this idea that K-pop has always been westernized. K-pop couldn't have existed without these Western influences, and what makes the genre so unique is the way that pioneers of K-pop and artists continue to put their own spin that puts the K in K-pop rather than it just being pop. And the other defining half of K-pop is the idol system. The examples of K-pop artists I've used who've recreated very specific aesthetics from Western artists, I showed these to demonstrate just how heavily inspired K-pop artists are by Western music and their trends. Even in these examples, I can clearly see the individuality and charisma that Baby Vox and Rain both have in these eras. In no way is this me saying that they're reduced to how Western they appear, sing, or act. It's just a reality that K-pop has never not been westernized. I hope this video has given you a better cultural and historical understanding of why K-pop is the way it is in today's climate and from its inception. If you like a little commentary meets sarcasm on complex issues in K-pop, then please subscribe for more videos like this. I also have a super thanks button and a Ko-fi page if you want to make a monetary donation while I wait to get monetized. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.